Because we tend to look for other people to say the things we want to hear, we often neglect our potential to be those voices, to share those ideas, to develop those ideas and so on. And we have a history, which means a lot of us still don't quite understand one another. So to me, what is often important is understanding why someone takes a certain position. And I need to glean that information from them rather than me supposing the reasons why they disagree with me. With society, every minute that is wasted in an argument, that is endless. The damage that that lack of agreement and direction causes lasts longer than the period over which you had a disagreement. My grandmother was a force of nature. She really was. She really didn't care what gender you were. You all got it on the nose. So this one guy came to visit. I can't remember what they were talking about, but he made a mistake. He said, "Don't talk to me like that, I'm a man." And I think I was about 8 years old, me and my cousins, somewhere older than me. We all froze because we knew this guy was going to get himself into trouble. So she said, "Excuse me, whose man are you?" So he says, "What do you mean?" She says, "No, you've just come into my house and told me that you are a man. I want to know why that should matter in my house." And the guy was like, "Well, what I mean is," I said, "Hang on, I think it's time you left." And this guy didn't believe it. "I'm going to call the dogs and chase you out. We leave." So the guy leaves and wanted to laugh. And we'd see people over time getting into trouble in this way. She really just didn't give a damn. And I love that about her. And I worked at Volkswagen in South Africa. I started in 1998. And at the time, the new managing director was a German executive called Hans Christian Magner. There was one thing about Mr. Magner. I mean, there were many things about him, but there was one thing I most admired. If you had a deal with him, you had a deal. Now, you may think I'm exaggerating. If I had an agreement with Mr. Magner that we're going to meet there and it started raining, he wouldn't come and sit here and wait for me. He would take an umbrella and stand there. Seriously, literally, he was like that. And he would never change his mind without talking to you first, whatever the level you were in. So he treated everybody the same, and he scrupulously kept his word. And I worked at Extrata, and I worked for an extraordinary person called Mick Davis. One of the big lessons that we learned from him was that he recognized very early on, or he was acutely aware, that he can't give everybody instructions all the time. So there were a couple of rules at Extrata, and he insisted on it. The first was that if you can't give people the opportunity and the tools to make their own decisions about the work they do, you've disempowered them. So you need to allow them to do it. It's easy to do that with people who are problematic, to maintain the discipline. But with people that were really nice, and these guys come into the newsroom, they become the life of the newsroom, basically. Everybody laughs and they love them, and whenever they talk, you laugh and that sort of thing. When they're depressed, you instantly feel sorry for them. And so when they give you an excuse, you don't deal with it. It's one of my biggest struggles. I always have to consciously knock myself on the head. And as soon as I walk out, that I need to go and find out the facts and try and understand what really happened, and appropriate action therefore needs to be taken. Second, sometimes leadership is about action from below rather than from above, because we demand certain outcomes and certain behaviors and certain values of the people that we elevate to these kind of positions. So here's the thing, and this is the advice I would give, is that it's increasingly becoming important that the training that our colleagues are given is not just journalism. I think that if I had just become a journalist, I would not have a lot of the real life experience I now have. News publications are as much about the journalism now as about running the business properly and meeting the challenges of management, of finance, and that sort of thing. So journalists usually don't know how companies work, actually. They don't quite know how companies work in reality because they just haven't been there. Journalists who write about the economy and economic policy don't know how government departments work and how they develop policy and so on. And sometimes I wish we had this insight because I know what we offer to our readers could be so much better. So I started asking the guys, even guys who do other bits, that look, you come out of the how train, there are cranes and all sorts of things. You see a new crane, just find out why it's there. Or the little scooters that transport people around Sandton, who owns those things? How many are they selling? How many are they making? That is the real economy. And often the same guys who write for us will write those things. They don't know who owns them. How many get made? Do they employ locals? Are they imported? Who imports them? Is it part of a bigger group? Is it a new company? And so on. That doesn't register. Everybody waits for company results to come or somebody to issue a press release. So those are some of the benefits of knowing how the real economy works. And journalists are often insulated from that reality because you move from school to writing about it. And sometimes we forget that you write what people tell you. You're not always given the opportunity to observe yourself and link seemingly unrelated things and understand the bigger picture.
I just want to understand, how does that internal and external pressures work and interplay between them?
Government officials usually don't complain at all, and even ministers, seriously they don't. What we get most often, I get very often, SMSs and WhatsApps from either a minister or a director general and saying good column. Seriously, they do. The prickliest people around are companies, and companies want to control message in the most inappropriate manner you can imagine.
Around us. I just would like to know your opinion on the current new threats on media freedom.
And the threat is a much broader front than just ANC politicians. And some of the threat arises from the differences that we've had as a society over time. So the people, when it's convenient, detach themselves from the newspapers and other publications they consume. And they decide, we don't like what you've written today, and therefore you are horrible. The worst thing we can do is to start censoring ourselves because we don't want to upset people. So what I find is that people think I get death threats all the time. Actually, I don't. So the guys who are afraid of death threats, they're actually going to get them one day because they're not used to saying that stuff. But with me, it doesn't happen. People still talk to me. The same people I write about. They still talk to me. And it's not a problem. Nobody's ever attacked us at our house or threatened my mother who's a civil servant, and that's it's just never happened. So you create your own space. And therefore, the biggest threat is the fear amongst journalists. If we allow it to take root, then we're going to have serious problems.